do it too. He's still over it. He ain't got a headset on.
Today's first match features the new team of score for the Buffalo Bulls against the home team of score the Hofstra. And now the team is starting on first and team of score for the starting five for the Buffalo Bulls. A 6'8" meter forward on one side.
We have reached the end of day one here at the 2023 Gulf Coast Showcase. We welcome you back here on FloHoops, getting ready for the last quarterfinal matchup of the day. And Greg Anderson, it's a couple of teams that wear blue from the state of New York. Now they're quite far apart, but we've got Buffalo and Hofstra linking up in our final matchup of the day.
And we've been talking all day about coaches and names, and we've got some big names in the building right now. We've got Speedy Claxton. We got Anquan Bolden Jr. And we got a guy by the name of Jay Wright probably in the building.
Yes, Max will have more on that in just a moment. George Halkovich III in his first year with Buffalo, longtime assistant at Villanova, runs the show for Buffalo. They have started the year 1-2, as have the Pride under third-year head coach Speedy Claxton, longtime NBA guard. Ready to go in our final quarterfinal of the day. The winner will face Wright State tomorrow night in this time slot, 7:30. Hofstra wins the tip. Jaquan Carlos runs the show for them. He's their leader at point guard. Fires one left and out of bounds, and they say there was a tip. Fulcher can't believe it, but it'll stay with Hofstra.
And Jen, I know you had a great conversation with Buffalo coach George Halkovich. Really a roster that he put together late. Some really interesting stories about this team.
Yeah, lots of transfers in this matchup. The 5 o'clock game today was the outlier, where we had two very stable programs with longtime coaches, not a lot of transfers, as Carlos knocks down the three to start the night. But we're back to teams with young, relatively new head coaches and a lot of transfers. So we'll get into that. But Carlos is not a transfer. He is a third-year player for Hofstra.
Hofstra had a lot of success under Speedy Claxton so far. He's in his third year, 46-21 total, but coming off a 25-10 season last year where they made the NIT.
Corner three is down for Darlin Stone Dubar. Transfer from Iowa State, averaging 17 a game with Hofstra.
So last year in the Coastal Athletic Association Conference, Hofstra went in as the #1 seed and got upset, but they were still able to play in the NIT.
#1 seed in that tournament, finished 25-10. Nice feed underneath for Jaco Fritz. Transfer from Canisius, and an early timeout for Buffalo.
John, fourth game in a row where one team started really hot. The last game, that team did not win. The first 2 games, the teams that started hot did win.
Yeah, by the media timeout of Game 3 today, it had evened out a good bit. But in our first 2 games, we had teams jump out to huge leads, and they were able to hang on to those leads throughout. With High Point and Illinois State winning those 2 games, they'll meet in our first semifinal tomorrow. But Hofstra out to a hot start here. Hofstra is certainly the favorite on paper, coming off an excellent season. And while they did lose a lot from last year's team, they've got a couple key pieces back, and Speedy Claxton has brought in some really talented transfers. And Fritz is a good example. 6'10" from the Netherlands. Was a really successful player at Canisius. Averaged at least 7 points per game all 4 years that he was there. Has a bachelor's in sports management and now a graduate student at Hofstra. Speedy Claxton said that he wants Fritz to be a little bit more vocal, and as the season goes along, he expects Fritz to be more of a leader. And he's a starter right out of the gate, and he gets a steal right there and draws the foul as well.
So not the start, obviously, that Buffalo was looking at. But like I had sort of teased before, and John, I'm sure you'll talk about it throughout the game, you had a great conversation with the coach, and he got hired March 30th?
Yes, right at the end of the season.
I mean, that's 9 months ago.
Yeah. He had time to build the roster. Really overhauled the entire roster, did George Halkovich III. Had a lot of connections, obviously was recruiting at Villanova for the last decade and a half, and so he was able to bring enough guys in to fill things up. Smith pulls down the rebound, and finally Buffalo gets a stop. This is Fulcher right into the defender, kicks to the corner. Bolden Jr. into a double team, turns, nowhere to go. This is Genevius Smith on the pass. Adams gives it back to him. Smith working on Fritz. 10 to shoot. Fulcher pulls up for 3, no good. Long rebound tapped out and brought in by Chapman. Or I beg your pardon, Dubar. Dubar spins in the lane. That ball was tipped, so he's able to recover. And now it's Fritz up top. Bounce pass for Tyler Thomas. Leading scorer fades away and knocks it down.
Yeah, what a great start by Hofstra. 10-0 to start the game. Like you said, on paper they're favored, and they've got a lot of talent returning with some guys coming in. So this is a tall task for Buffalo.
Three-pointer is down. Count the triple for Adams. Isaiah Adams, transfer from UCF.
And he is their leading scorer. He's got some Florida ties, obviously. A transfer from UCF.
Born in Jacksonville. As that shot is good, Tyler Thomas quickly matches him. Hofstra on fire early on. 5 for 6 from the field. Smith with it up top. Carlos trying to cut off the passing lanes. Bolden Jr. kicks. Sable got bumped, and that'll be a foul. And 3 shots are coming up for Ryan Sable.
And Coach Claxton is just pleading with his guy, Thomas, that you got to be smarter than that.
Well, Sable played at Gonzaga College High School in Washington, D.C. Same high school program that produced Chris Jenkins, who, of course, hit the national championship clinching buzzer beater against North Carolina. And Coach Halkovich obviously helped recruit Chris when he was at Villanova and now brings those ties to Buffalo. And so he knew that Gonzaga college staff well and brings in Sable.
And that's, you've mentioned it a couple times now, the connections that, Coach Halkovich, 15 years on staff with Jay Wright in Villanova. The connections you make over that time period, and when you lose a guy like him, to become a head coach, you've lost a lot of connections in the recruiting.
That Washington Catholic League we talked about in our last game, one of the best high school leagues in the country. George said that he saw Sable play against Paul VI, one of the best high school teams in the country, and Sable held his own and now gets a scholarship here with Buffalo. Another bucket there for the Pride. And they've got 15 before the first media timeout.
Yeah, it was Tyler Thomas again. You see why he averages nearly 20 points a game.
Well, it's all Hofstra early on, a 9-point lead as we head to our first break of the night here at the Gulf Coast Showcase. As we welcome you back here to Fort Myers, let's introduce you to the third member of our team. It's Max Tanzer.
Thank you very much, John. As you mentioned, this is the first year in the head coaching career of George Halkovich, who has quite a resume to his name. Of course, spent 15 seasons with Villanova under the illustrious coach, Jay Wright. And it's a really interesting story for George. Started as a video coordinator, a grad assistant, and quickly rose up the ranks all the way to an associate head coach. And he talked about how important it was, Jay Wright was for his career, as Jay was the type of guy that was really generous with teaching him and giving him what is now an opportunity here as a head coach. Said that it was an emotional conversation for him with Coach Wright when they were able to share the news that he was the Buffalo head coach. It's because of how tightly knit they are. And to cap it all off, Coach Wright is here in attendance tonight to watch his protege and George Halkovich. Guys?
Sable's three is good as these teams continue to trade buckets, but good stuff there from Max. Coach Halkovich shared that story with us before the tournament about how he couldn't get a hold of Jay when he first got the job offer, and George really wanted to tell him himself, and he got in a room with Coach Wright, and there were tears shed in that conversation when, after all the hard work at Villanova, that he finally had an opportunity to coach his own program.
And I don't think people understand the road that these guys go on as a college student to know that you want to pursue this. And not that this is about me at all, but I'm a high school teacher, and I coached for over 20 years. And when I was in college, I didn't have that foresight to say, you know, why don't I try to get into the college ranks? I just wanted to be a high school coach and a teacher, and that's what I've become. And the idea that a 19, 20-year-old will know that, hey, I want to coach for a living, I'm going to volunteer as a manager somewhere. That's what a lot of the guys do. So you're the manager of a basketball team, and then you graduate, and if you're lucky, you might be able to get a grad assistant position. But the amount, the long-winded point I'm making, the amount of volunteer unpaid hours that these guys put in to get to this position, they've earned it.
Yeah, it's usually, at least 3 years of working for no pay? And hopefully those are years while you're still in school, but sometimes it's after school.
And a lot of the times, especially at these mid-major schools, you don't even know that it's the head coach that's buying a suit or two for their assistants because they can't afford it, and to put in the amount of time and the years and to eventually rise up, it's a testament to all these college guys.
Well, fortunately here at the Gulf Coast Showcase, we've got windbreakers and polos. It's their holiday tournament, but I'm sure when both these teams are back up in New York, they've got the suits going.
And obviously on the other side, there's guys like Speedy, who were great players at Hofstra, went to the NCAA tournament. I mean, he is the poster I can't call him a child, but he's a poster child for Hofstra University. Played in the NBA, and he didn't just become a head coach. He went back and was an assistant and did the work that was necessary.
Yeah, he had to climb the ladder too. I mean, the resume did not let him jump too many rungs on the ladder. So these guys have earned it, and they've got teams that are poised to be right at the top of their leagues. Great ball movement from Hofstra. Dubar's three splashes down, and the Pride are now 5 for 6 from beyond the arc. This is Bolden Jr. running out of room. Fulcher circles around. It's a 12-point lead for Hofstra. And we've got a foul on the floor as Smith got bumped.
So John and I, this is our 4th game. Started at 11 a.m. this morning. High Point out of North Carolina started their game 5 out of 6 from three-point land. Same thing that Hofstra's doing now, and High Point went on to a decisive victory over Iona. And we'll see if this repeats itself in this 7:30 game.
It is pretty shocking, Greg, to see 3 New York teams in the bracket. Usually they spread the geography out a little bit more. Now, Buffalo, of course, is very far from New York City, but Hofstra and Iona are separated by, less than an hour, depending on the New York traffic. But those are programs that play each other a lot in the non-conference slate. So they could eventually meet down the road in the bracket. Now, if they were to meet, it would have to be in the loser's bracket because Iona lost earlier today. Fulcher gets blocked. Oh, that's a heck of a play by Silas Sunday. And speaking of Iona, he transferred from there.
It was interesting going through all the research of all these teams and seeing some of the transfers from schools that are here. And again, what are the chances? And these teams have lined up this tournament for years in advance, so it's not like they just decided, last spring to come down here.
A jump ball, it'll stay on this end. Yeah, so for the tournament, they're going for solid programs with solid coaches. Hard to predict what's going to happen in 18 months' time, but it does end up where we have 3 New York teams and 3 first-year head coaches in the field.
And not that we want to talk about another school. People aren't tuned in. People are tuned in to watch Hofstra and Buffalo. But perfect example, Iona. 13 out of the 14 players are brand new, a new coach, everything. The Gulf Coast Showcase, when they signed up Iona, I'm sure they thought they'd see Rick Pitino down here. So a lot of changes could always happen.
Oh, what a finish! Darlin Stone Dubar in transition gets it to go and will go to the line as well.
Now, John, I'd love to see a replay here because the bucket went in. It almost looked like Sunday went to tip it in, but apparently he didn't touch it.
It all started with Carlos, and Dubar already is in double figures. He's got 11 of the 25 for Hofstra. Scored 17 or 18 points in the first 3 games of the year. He's well on his way to getting to that total again today. Averaged 10 points per game last year, starting every one for Speedy Claxton. Sable changes direction and gets it to Smith. Bolden met by a double. This is Adams. Tucks the basketball. Floater with the left, no good. Offensive rebound, Smith. He punched it, but we have a whistle first. And you can see Anquan Bolden Jr. pull Smith away as he was trying to trash talk.
I think the foul was beforehand.
He did put Sunday on a poster. He also wanted to let him know, even though it didn't count.
There's nothing wrong with that. I love when guys are excited. The only downside of that is, you're down 15 points. It's 26-11. You still want to play with a lot of fire, but you also want to have a little bit of awareness of what's going on the scoreboard.
Yeah, totally. 6-0 run here for Hofstra. They've made 6 shots in a row and are 9 for 10 for the game. There's a good slip underneath and an easy dunk for Chapman. Side Chapman, Illinois State transfer. His team is in the field here this week.
Yeah, so this was the game. I remember seeing a couple transfers from schools that are also here. Oh.
And a foul. It's headed the other way. The foul will go against Sunday.
So maybe the energy that Buffalo was looking for, they found a little bit.
Yeah, they seem to have their legs under them a bit. There's no way Hofstra's going to shoot 90% the rest of the way.
The officials are doing a good job of just stepping in, making sure guys are not getting too excited.
Yeah, this is one of the more physical games we've had today already. Adams gets it to Chapman. Working on Thomas. Fades away. We've got a whistle and a foul on the rebound, and it's going to go against Genevieve Smith.
Yeah, that's high-level energy of Smith right now, getting the best of him. And he wants to stay in the game. It looks like he's going to come out.
Yeah, that's his first foul, but George Halkovich can sense the frustration, and he asked Smith to take a seat. Greg, let me know if you see any Villanova similarities with Buffalo here today. Coach Halkovich obviously just setting the culture.
Well, and you said it exactly, and that's something that you and I would never be able to see, you know, calling a game for the first time, because culture takes place off the court. And the style of play, you know, Jay Wright, what I know is that it was defensive-minded.
Oh, Bolden missed the layup. Go ahead.
Yeah, but, you know, it's hard. You're not recruiting the same player. And that's the big thing. We joked earlier in the day that, you know, Jim Boeheim could play that 2-3 zone with 3 7-footers across the baseline. So to recruit the elite Power 5 player at a Villanova, it's going to be a little bit different for Buffalo. But at the same time,
as Adams forces his way through and banks it in,
Coach Halkovich is going to want to create his own standards, and it doesn't always have to be identical to, you know, guys that you learned under. You try to take the best of what you think and meld it into your own.
Dubar pulls up in the lane and hits the floater. 14 points for Darlinstone Dubar.
Yeah, just a lot of confidence on the offensive side for Hofstra. Thomas started it all with a 3.
This is a mature group. 3 graduate students in the starting lineup. Here's a breakaway again. The lob and the throwdown. 2 more for Dubar.
And that right there is exactly the chemistry you're talking about. A 3-on-1, not a single dribble after that initial pass. Great job by Hofstra.
We will step aside here on FloHoops as the Pride stretch their lead. We come to you live from Hertz Arena. If you're tuned in from somewhere in New York or supporting one of these players, you may have no idea where we are here. This is Estero, Florida, just south of Fort Myers. And this is the normal home of the Florida Everblades, an ECHL minor league hockey team. This place holds just under 9,000 fans. And we are expecting some big crowds here this weekend as Caitlin Clark in Iowa will be playing on this court against a couple of other Power 5 programs. Fade away for Chapman, and he almost got it, but the rebound to Thomas. FGCU will be in the field for the women's bracket as well, so the women are almost guaranteed to outdraw the men here this week. There's a pull-up, and Robinson couldn't get the roll. That's their freshman, Fritz, fighting for the rebound, earned the foul, and possession for Hofstra. It is 30-15, by the way. As a sub checks in here for Buffalo. That's Smith. Kejon Robinson has played a good bit, 14 minutes per game as a true freshman. Coach Claxton said he is really talented, is going to be a huge part of their program moving forward. Thomas had to kick. A three for Washington, and he rains it down. All Hofstra here in the first half.
Yeah, they just look comfortable on offense.
Fulcher into some white jerseys. Jones tries the three, doesn't get the roll, but he'll go to the free throw line. That is Kanye Jones, transfer from Boston College.
And John, you had mentioned our location and whatnot, and this game by far has the most Florida ties in Buffalo's roster. You got Delray, Florida. You know, Anquan Bolden Jr. played at IMG Academy. We mentioned Isaiah Adams, a transfer from UCF. He's from Jacksonville. Kanye Jones from Orlando, played at Windermere Prep, which is just an outstanding high school basketball. I'll call it a factory here in Florida.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Hofstra, Kejon from Apopka.
Did I see that right, that you had Maryland highlighted on your board there?
Well, I do. I highlight all the transfers.
Okay. That wasn't for me.
I did that just for you.
That'd be James Graham, who is redshirting this year as a double transfer. Was at Missouri State last year, but did start his college career at Maryland. Jones's free throw there, no good. Fritz the rebound. So 2 out of 3 at the line for the Bulls.
And John went to Maryland, by the way.
Yes.
It's no Valparaiso.
Thank you for pointing that out. There's another one. Dubar again. 19 points in the first half.
Comes in averaging 17.3 points, and he obviously likes the sight lines here at Hertz Arena.
Smith open from straight on. Oh, what an effort. And a foul. Kanye Jones tried to stuff it, and instead he'll go to the free throw line. But gosh, 19 for Dubar, a quarter of the way into the game. So he's on pace for what, 70?
Yeah, about that.
Now there you see Kanye Jones getting up for that ball. Coach Halkovich praised his speed. He said he's great in open space. And we've seen that already tonight as Jones makes the first. Lloyd McVeigh in there for Buffalo, freshman from Australia. Had to scout him on videotape. I don't think these coaches make regular recruiting trips to Australia.
No, but you'd be surprised. You know, you had mentioned earlier today FGCU tie Joey Canton's, one of the players that played for him at a junior college here. He had a whole lot of European ties, and so all of these coaches have ties overseas. And there's a reason a lot of these teams will go over and play exhibitions.
Yeah, and there's video portals now. It's a lot easier to find players than it used to be. Jones using the screen, gets down the lane. Tough angle, couldn't finish. Smith almost went over the back on Fritz. Here comes Carlos. Jaquan Carlos finds the hot hand. Dubar, not that time. Fritz gets in there for the offensive rebound. His pass was deflected and taken away by Fulcher. Fulcher lost his footing and draws the foul. Carlos didn't touch him, but the official saw Fulcher go down, and so he gave him the call.
So, John, we had noticed in the 5 o'clock game a lot of slips. This is a new floor. It's over ice. This is a hockey arena. And it looks like he just slipped a little bit.
The good news here is that this is a brand new court, so we have had far less condensation on it than we had in years past on a court they've had to reuse over the years. This was just laid down the other day, and it is gorgeous. We also have the Fort Myers tip-off going on across town, so a ton of quality college hoops going on all week long. Free throw shooting's been excellent for the Bulls. As that one goes, it is now 11 of 12, the tally at the free throw line for Buffalo.
Yeah, and that has kept them in this game, even despite being down 15. We've seen some pretty horrendous free throw shooting all day today, so it's good that they're making them, staying in this game.
Fritz was rolling to the rim there, pass deflected. You can see those Bulls players, though, diving on the floor. I think they're all trying to make a good impression with their first-year head coach.
Well, you would hope so, and it really shouldn't matter, first year, 10th year.
But they know that there's playing time to be had with
yes,
this new regime.
Absolutely.
Thomas misses the fadeaway. Fritz got a hand on it, and it'll stick with Buffalo.
So a no call on Fritz there. It possibly could have been an over the back, but I like those no calls as long as the possession isn't affected by the potential foul.
We have had 13 fouls in this half, so it's not like they've swallowed the whistles. And there's a foul on Carlos reaching in, and he just had one earlier, so 2 quick ones on Jaquan Carlos. A member of the All-Colonial Athletic Association defensive team last year. He can guard up just about anyone. He was top 25 in the country last year in assist-to-turnover ratio. That is Fulcher, who transferred in from Ellsworth Community College, but originally is from New York City. Love that around the back from Fulcher before the free throw. And he missed that one short. So Robinson back in, the freshman from Apopka, Florida. Walking it up with a 14-point lead. Or if we're talking Anquan Bolden language, it's a 2-touchdown lead for Hofstra here in the first half. Thomas got the bump, and the foul goes on Anquan Bolden Jr., and that'll take us to a timeout. It's Hofstra 36 and Buffalo 22, live from the Gulf Coast Showcase, only on FloHoops. John Vitas welcoming you back to Estero, Florida, joined by longtime high school head coach Greg Anderson. Hofstra has been outstanding today. Their offense has been flowing. And a foul there, sending Kejon Robinson to the line. That's exactly what Speedy Claxton told us. He is creative off the bounce, and we just saw that right there.
And we've talked about the KenPom ratings it's early on, so there's not a whole lot of data to go off, but Hofstra comes in at 146, Buffalo 307, which is the lowest ranked out of the 8 teams we have here. And I bring that up because we've had a couple games today where teams have built some double-digit leads, but the other teams came back on them and made it a ball game. Even, the most lopsided game so far, High Point beating Iona. Iona made a game of it at one point. So it's a tough task for Buffalo to try to get back in this game, now trailing 15.
And a turnover there won't help. Yeah, all the odds makers had all 4 of our games today in single-digit lines as Thomas bangs it through. So we are expecting pretty much all the games this week to be fairly close, but this has been about as lopsided as we've seen today.
Well,
now,
I think this line was the highest at, I believe, 9.5 or so.
Yes. And we did have a 20-point lead earlier today from High Point, but for the most part, these games have been played in the single digits, at least in terms of margin. Thomas with a great feed. Dubar reverses it in. He's got 21. And a timeout from George Halkovich III. Boy, there is some major offensive chemistry for Hofstra. That is gorgeous.
And the chemistry, what we've seen all day today, the teams that have played together, with the exception of Long Beach State, that on paper came in as the best team, they got beat. And they got beat by an Illinois State team that came out and played really hard, and they did not, talking about Long Beach State, they did not play with a whole lot of chemistry, and that confused us because they had 5 returning starters. One of the starters from last year actually comes out off the bench. Hofstra, that, like we've talked about, and I said the Coastal Athletic before, the Colonial Athletic, went 16-2 in conference play last year, got beat in the second round of the Colonial tournament in overtime by UNC Wilmington, 79-73. They've got a lot of those guys back. They played in the NIT. They won at Rutgers, 88-86. Then they hosted Cincinnati and got beat in the second round. But this is a team that is deep, that's had a lot of success, and when you're used to winning games, you just can't replicate that when you're a program just starting.
Yeah, there's proven winners on the court right now for Hofstra. These Buffalo guys, a lot of them are in their first year at this level. Smith pulls up for a long 2. Offensive rebound, though, for McVeigh. He circles back in, got Fritz in the air, but walked with it. It's a 20-point lead, by the way, 42-22 with 6:35 to go. Dubar with exactly half the points. There's Fritz popping to it. And now Thomas pulls up, 10-foot jumper off the mark. Rebound secured by Chapman. This is Adams. Tried to spin, had it stripped. Robinson, the freshman, got his foot landed on, and so a foul called against Buffalo.
And that was totally inadvertent, but you have to call that there. He obviously fell into the guy with the ball. And that's going to send Robinson to the line. He's 1 for 2 in the ball game so far.
First free throw is up and good. Stay tuned. We are expecting to have Jay Wright on our air coming out of halftime, so you may want to stick around for that. Maybe cut down your anticipated break there from 15 minutes to, say, 10. As that one goes for the freshman. We have seen a lot of freshmen out here today, and a few of them have been really impressive. I think we can add Robinson to the list already with how he's looked.
Yeah, with the amount of basketball these kids are playing these days, it's nonstop. The tournaments that they play in and the competition they're exposed to, it's remarkable what it's turned into. You could argue for and against it at times, but the competition is a really high level.
Kick ball there against Fritz, so a shot clock reset to 20 for McVeigh and the Bulls. What is this set here, Greg, at the free throw line?
Some sort of wheel set, back door, screen, open up.
Did you dial that up at your high school programs?
We had a lot of different sets. But just like, I know it's not even the same level, but I've talked to a lot of college coaches, called college games. No matter the sport, the coaching's the same, the way you treat kids, and the more complex you could make your plays, it's based on the team you have that particular year. So some years we're just playing the most basic sets because that's all they could handle.
Oh, that's out of bounds, lost by Chapman, and Hofstra will get it back. Coach Claxton immediately called Robinson over and got in his ear about that shot selection.
Yeah, that looked like a shot a freshman would take.
Nothing doing on the offensive set, so he just chucks up a three.
Yep.
I mean, he had a pretty good look, but you want to set up the offense.
But those are threes that I'm sure he has buried many, many times at the high school and AAU level. But this is a little bit different.
A lot of dribbling from Thomas. He defers to Dubar, now gets it back. Long three from Thomas. He hits it. Long range, Tyler Thomas.
So he opened the game with a three. That's his third one. 3 for 3 from beyond the arc.
Hofstra shooting 65% here in the opening half. Chapman turns, had it poked free for a moment. There's the handoff to McVeigh, and he'll be called for the travel.
I think that's the third travel on McVeigh.
I think it's important to note here that Buffalo is a team that's picked to finish in the top half of the MAC. They were a 500 team last year in MAC play, just slightly under overall. So it's not like the cupboard is bare here. I know there were a lot of changes, but we did not expect to see this game get this lopsided.
No, they were 15-17 overall, 9-9 in MAC play. They got beat pretty soundly by Akron in the first round of the MAC tournament last year.
Dubar wide open, not that time. Oh, heat check for Darlin Stone Dubar, but again.
Second time.
Yeah, the Bulls cannot secure it along the end line. They have had 4 turnovers in the last, or now 5 turnovers. They did credit them with one there. 5 turnovers in less than 4 minutes. There's a bounce pass. Fritz gets free, lays it in, plus the foul. The Pride firing on all cylinders. Got inside, tied up with Wilson, and laid it home. And Wilson just came in for the first time.
When you play man-to-man on out-of-bounds plays underneath, you're susceptible to that. You'll see a lot of teams will just play a zone, and then as soon as it's inbounded, match up, just so they don't give up those kind of buckets.
Yeah, Fritz only scored 4 points, or I beg your pardon, 6 points through the first 3 games. He's averaging 2 points per game. He is going to end up a lot higher than that when it's all said and done. As Chapman comes up short, there's the freshman Robinson slicing in for the rebound. No-look pass. Washington uses the screen. There's the roll to Fritz, and it's picked off. Here comes Chapman. Fires ahead to Jones. Wheels his way to the rim, but missed the layup. Dubar wants to head back the other way. Open three, Thomas. No, not that time. Offensive rebound, though, to Washington. He wheels himself around and lays it in. 7 points for Bryce Washington.
Yeah, at this point, if you're Buffalo, you just want to keep playing hard. And for Coach Halkovich, it's time to see who could prove themselves.
Three off the mark that time from Thomas. Buffalo's got it. Do you want them to slow it down here? I know they're down big, but would you like to see Buffalo be a little more deliberate with how they set things up?
No, slowing down and being deliberate are two separate things, obviously, but you want to be able to run your sets. That's what you want. You just don't want one-on-one quick shots.
And Hofstra's had some easy buckets. A 16-0 run for the Pride. We'll take a break. You're watching the Gulf Coast Showcase on FloHoops. Buffalo with the basketball coming out of the under 4 media timeout. They've got some serious work to do. Genevia Smith one-on-one with Sunday. Got the shot off but couldn't finish. Robinson gets in the back door for the rebound. Freshman pulls up for three. Book it! 55 points in the first half for Hofstra.
And there's still 3 minutes to go, John.
That is 10 threes for the Pride. Around the screen comes Sable. That one's short. Smith battled for it, drives the baseline and lays it in. You can see Genevia Smith is aggressive by nature.
Yeah, and at this point you're looking for individuals just to stand out, to, you know, put some good stuff on film, prove that they belong on the court.
Pretty pull-up from Thomas. Yeah, Smith comes in averaging 12 rebounds per game. Coach Halkovich said he is very active, and we've seen that for sure. There he is. And he's tall, too. 6'9".
Yeah, and it looks like he's bigger than 6'9".
It really does. Most of the time they overshoot the height. He might be unfairly docked an inch or two.
Spent some time at Seton Hall.
That one spins off. Offensive rebound for Wilson. He kicks to Sable in the corner, who kicks out now to Smith, and a travel.
And now on the other side of this, Coach Claxton, he wants to make sure his guys are continuing to play, not turning this into, you know, their own personal, I wouldn't call it playground, but just because they have a lead, it's way too early in the year to not continue playing exactly the way Coach wants them to play.
They're just molding everything right now to try and be ready for February and March. Beautiful feed underneath and an easy lay-in for two. That is German Plotnikov, transfer from North Platte Community College. Wing 3 left alone. Coach Claxton did not like that. Ball will stay with Buffalo off the miss. They had only rotated 7 players until Plotnikov just checked in. And Sunday's only played 4 minutes, so it's only 6 players really in the rotation here in the first half for Hofstra. That's the tightest rotation we've seen all day. As a reach-in call is made against Thomas.
And let's also realize that this is game number 4. Hofstra comes in with a record of 1-2. They lost at home to Princeton, then went to GW and lost there, both by double digits. Sorry, they lost 74-67 to Princeton, so lost by 7 to Princeton. And you know the style that Princeton plays, so they slowed them down and still got 67 points up. But then losing to GW by double digits, so their only win so far is against a non-Division I opponent.
Yeah, this will be their best win by far, especially when you look at the point margin if this continues. It's been a bit of a slow start for the Pride, but Coach Claxton really downplayed that. He's not too concerned about this team. He feels like he's got a really good group, and clearly we're seeing they're immensely talented here tonight. Robinson gets around the corner, fades, and missed it. That'll go out of bounds. Sable and Buffalo will have it with 47 seconds remaining. Max will be joined by Coach Claxton right after our halftime buzzer. Another sub coming in now for Hofstra as Griffin Baruch enters, redshirt sophomore from Glen Mills, Pennsylvania. This is Chapman one-on-one, well defended by Washington. That's Williamson in the game with the touch. He gets it back from Sable. Bounce pass to Chapman. Nice turn on the baseline, and he laid it up and in through traffic. Tough play from Chapman. And now Hofstra can hold for the final shot. That snaps a 23-2 run from the Pride. And a 1-for-15 stretch for Buffalo. That ball is loose. Thomas recovers, has to shoot, and almost got it to go off the window. He was asking for a foul, but they've got a nice lead here at the break. 59-26 the margin.
Yeah, by far the most lopsided game we've called so far, John, but impressive offensive performance to start the game by Hofstra. And the second half will be interesting to make sure Hofstra continues to work on what they're doing and to make sure Buffalo plays the right way and tries to get some stuff accomplished on their end.
Max is getting ready to meet up with head coach Speedy Claxton. Let's send it over to Max, who's joined with the Hofstra head coach.
Thank you very much, John. We're joined by head coach Speedy Claxton. And, Coach, an explosive performance in the first half from your guys' offense. What were you seeing from that?
Yeah, good first half. Great ball movement. We were playing team basketball. We got to tighten up some stuff on the defensive end. They got a lot of points from the free throw line, so we got to play without fouling.
Absolutely. And then an adjective to describe what you've seen from Duran so far. 21 points already here in the first half.
Tremendous. He's been tremendous, and we're going to need that from him. He's have a great start to the season, and he's just got to continue playing like that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Coach.
All right.
John, back to you.
Still finding things to nitpick with. Did not like the opportunities at the free throw line from Buffalo, but yeah, he gave Dubar there his due.
Well, his first name is Coach. Now, I know it's Speedy, but you're never going to walk off the court, win, lose, like completely satisfied. So
it's just
not
being a
surprised
coach
whatsoever. Absolutely.
62% from the field in that half from Hofstra, and they are well on their way here in the nightcap of the Gulf Coast Showcase. Max will be joined with a special guest in about 10 minutes when we come back on FloHoops.
In this clinic, we pride ourselves on putting others first. It's on us to help care for our clients' well-being, to help them adapt. It's inspiring to work at a place where our patients succeed and we as therapists do too. With great benefits from Principal, we feel appreciated for the work we do.
Back live from Hertz Arena here in Fort Myers, Florida. I'm John Vitas, joined by Greg Anderson in our final quarterfinal of the day. The winner will take on Wright State tomorrow night at 7:30. And right now, Greg, it looks like it's probably going to be Hofstra.
Yeah, and John, it's a strange thing what I'm about to say, but the message from both teams probably was the same. Let's go, 0-0. Start fresh. Hofstra, you don't want to play like you're up 23. Buffalo, you just want to be realistic. You don't want to hey, let's come back and win this game. But you want to just start fresh and see what happens in the second half.
They continue to execute what you've practiced, right? And
Regardless,
this early in the year, that's even more important.
Yeah, it's way too early to just, if this was conference game late in the year, and obviously they're starting right where they left off, shooting the ball like that.
24 points for Darlinstone Dubar.
But if this is a conference game late in the year, you could get some other guys in. If you're a home game, you've got your crowd chanting for some walk-on, stuff like that, and you treat it a little bit different. But this is not like that at all.
This is a business trip for all
Absolutely.
these teams. That's a heck of a move by Chapman for Buffalo to start the half. But these teams want to, and it's not just about winning the trophy here. Obviously, that'll be the goal for Hofstra should they advance. But it's also about going 2-1 for the week. I mean, if you go 2-1 against like competition, that's a step forward for your team. And no matter which side of the bracket you're on, everybody's going to have a chance to go 2-1. There's some full court pressure from Buffalo. Carlos breaks the press. Wing three is up, and it rattles off for Thomas. Fritz is there for the offensive rebound and put back.
And, John, talk again. You had mentioned Fritz earlier and what Coach Claxton had talked about. He was looking for him to be more
vocal as Carlos lays it in. And we've been amazed by how upfront these coaches have been and honest about where their programs and their players are at. But obviously, Fritz, we mentioned, just 6 points through the first 3 games. They know he's going to give them a lot more than that as the season goes along. Lefty finish at the rim for Chapman. So give him 9 to lead Buffalo. But, yeah, Fritz is a starter. He is going to be a big part of the mix this year. He earned several medals playing for Team Netherlands in his youth. There's a nice feed inside and a lefty finish for Bryce Washington. Washington is an MBA student. He has a bachelor's from Penn in philosophy, politics, and economics. I don't know if that's 1 major or 3, but I do know he's really smart. There's a shot from the wing way off. Carlos scoops it up, and here come the Pride. Looking for Fritz. Swings it instead to Washington. Fritz working on his post moves. Bounce pass is taken away by Bolden Jr. Drop step in the lane. Righty layup is good. And Quan Bolden Jr. with his first basket.
That's exactly what Buffalo's looking for. Types of plays like that you could establish, get good experience, especially when you're a freshman like that, to build on throughout the season.
Contact, no call. Dubar breaks the press. Thomas on the baseline, drive into 3 blue jerseys, lays it home. 17 points for Tyler Thomas. Their 2 leading scorers putting up numbers tonight. They are a combined 15 for 24 from the field, Dubar and Thomas, and a turnover. This is getting a bit out of hand for Buffalo. Coach Halkovich trying to figure out a lineup that'll work, and that's what he told us in the phone call before the tournament. He said, I am still looking for the right lineup with this group. I mean, he'll use 10 or 11 players every night, trying to sort through what he's got with this new team. Carlos, not known for his scoring, has been quiet in that department, but distributing as well as always. Dubar lines up another one, in and out. Fritz pulls down the offensive rebound, fires to Carlos at the logo. And then we've got a whistle. And
it's about the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making sure. So the officials came over and talked to us a little bit at halftime. And during halftime, the workers here at Hertz Arena were really working on the floor, making sure that it didn't get any more slippery. But for the most part, the officials said that they were okay with their own footing.
They were also more than okay with their hotel accommodations as Sable's three goes off the mark. The teams and officials and workers here stay. There's a great lob for Dubar. That'll be a goaltend, 26 for Dubar. But yeah, all the teams here stay at one of the premier resorts over on Bonita Beach, about a 10 to 15-minute drive from the arena. We are right off I-75 here. Fortunately, this arena was only suffered minor damage during last year's hurricane, and they were still able to have the tournament just 2 months after Hurricane Ian. A Category 4 storm blew through this area. But, of course, as you go closer to that resort, I believe the resort the teams are at shut down for a few weeks to rebuild after the hurricane, and they were able to get that back up and running for the teams to still enjoy themselves.
Yeah, they had minimal damage at that hotel. It's the Coconut Point Hyatt. And it's one of the resort hotels that is large enough to accommodate. And so let's get back to the game here. Enough about the resort hotels and where we are. Anquan Bolden Jr. Now, obviously, if you know anything about sports and football, his father, one of the toughest NFL wide receivers. Locally, not locally, but in Florida, from Pahokee, Florida. What I'll never forget is when his face literally got shattered. I think it was Kurt Warner threw the ball over the middle. His face got shattered, and he played the next week or 2 weeks later. It was one of those incredible stories. And so Anquan Jr. played at IMG Academy, and just in the second half alone, 2 great drives to the basket. Yeah, he got the goaltending there, but he wasn't giving up on a backdoor alley-oop, and that's what you want to see from your players. Down by whatever they're down, they're still playing hard.
And he's a true freshman. They got him late. Well, let's step aside here on FloHoops. Hofstra leads big.
We're in the security business. Our job is to help people feel safe. Not only our customers, but those who matter most to them. Just like our company does for us. We have great benefits from Principal, so I know I'm taken care of. And not just me, but the ones who matter most to me.
We bring you back live to Hertz Arena here in Estero, Florida. Hofstra with a 74-35 lead, as we are pleased to be joined with now CBS analyst Jay Wright, former Villanova coach. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, man. It gives me a little warm-up right here. A warm-up for the season.
Lots of basketball here in this arena today. This is our 4th game of the day, but I know for you this is a personal connection. George Halkovich III on your staff for a decade and a half. I know you've got to be proud of this opportunity for him.
I really am. As we can see, he's got some work to do here. He's building a young team, trying to establish a culture. Didn't start a few guys, so when you're playing a good team like Hofstra and you're dealing with those issues early in your tenure and you're trying to build your culture and you don't start with your guys, you're going to be in trouble. A good team's going to get off to a good start, and it's going to be tough to come back.
Yeah, he was kind enough to talk to us for a while before this tournament, and we kind of went down the list of the guys he was able to get in there for year one, and the amazing connections he was able to build while he was on your staff allowed him to get some real talent in here. We were just talking about Anquan Bolden Jr., the son of the NFL receiver, making some plays here in the second half. Almost got the block there, but Hofstra lays it in for 2. But it's amazing how well all the coaches at your level are connected.
It is. In college basketball, it's a small fraternity. It really is. You can trace everybody, to who they worked with, even on Speedy Claxton's staff. Some of those guys worked with Tom Pecora before, who was on the staff with us, and they all know each other. Speedy and George know each other really well, so I know it's a little bit tough for them going at each other. I never liked going against former assistants or friends of mine. I never liked doing that.
Jaquan Carlos with a chance for a three-point play here. Of course, Kyle Neptune's taken over for you at Villanova. I know he and George are really close.
Yes.
To be able to watch 2 of your assistants now lead Division I programs has to be pretty rewarding, and I know a trip to Florida is probably it's a good time of the year to be down here too.
Yeah, this is a nice spot to see a game, right? I snuck up from Naples a little bit, but some great teams here. I saw the Wright State team last night had a nice dinner in Naples at a beach club where I was. So they watched the sunset, and then it must have paid off because they played well today.
They played really well, finally getting in the win column with head coach Scott Nagy. There's a nice play in signed by from Genevia Smith. We come here every year to this tournament, and we stack up the rosters. We look at where everyone's transferring from, and we think we've got a pecking order 1 through 8. And then they get out on the court, and sometimes it goes the complete opposite way. But early in the season, this is all about making sure your guys understand the system right and playing consistent basketball over 3 days.
Exactly. You never know now how transfers are going to fit in to a specific system. And also, each transfer is a different guy. Some guys can pick things up quickly. Some guys can't. Some guys are a little bit too respectful of the program they're coming to. Sometimes they come in and they want to just do everything right, and they don't really play their game. But I tell you what, this Hofstra team came out executing extremely well, and it's a tough team to get behind on because they all handle the ball and shoot it really well. They make free throws, and I know that's what George and the Buffalo squad have struggled with a little bit.
Yeah, 11 threes in this game for Hofstra, a team that's played together a little bit more consistently,
Exactly.
and obviously a successful season for them last year. But we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you how retirement is going. I know you found your way back to the basketball court as a broadcaster with Smith throwing it down there, but how's it been?
It's been fun. I've been able to do things like this. Like I love coming to see George and Speedy go at it. I coached at Hofstra, so I get to see a lot of the Hofstra people here today. And then I still work with our president at Villanova, so I've got some involvement with the athletic department. And then doing the CBS games is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And after the game, you don't have to worry about who's mad about playing time. You don't have to worry about going to practice the next day and fixing what you've got to improve.
You drop the headset and you go home. As the 3 goes down for Bolden Jr., as the scoring has really opened up here, and this will tend to happen in games like this, but as these 2 teams build for 3 games in 3 days, is there anything you would maybe implement to make sure everybody's fresh? Some coaches are grappling with whether to play 8 or 9 versus 10 or 11 this early in the season.
One of the things that Speedy is going to really struggle with, and actually George will too, this game is somewhat decided, right? So now you're thinking we got to play another game tomorrow. How much do I play these guys and keep them in rhythm? Because the time that they play together, as long as they're executing, you don't really worry about them getting tired. If you start getting sloppy, you start to build bad habits that could carry on to tomorrow.
Absolutely, and we've seen the variance in performance vary quite a bit over the course of the 3 days the last few years in this event, and Basically, the first 3 games we saw today went the opposite of what was kind of we were expecting on paper. It's amazing how the teams come out a little bit different. As there's a nice lob inside. Dubar with 2 more. 30 points for Darlinstone Dubar. He is tough, man. He is physical, tough. He can play on the perimeter. He plays inside. But, I'm sure like Hofstra is right now working on their zone defense. So when they need it, they're more of a man-to-man team. But this is good as long as they're executing well. Speedy will stick with it and stick with his starters. Sable responds with a triple. Just the 4th 3 for Buffalo, and now a little full court pressure from them. Yeah. And George will stick with his starters because he wants to get them in a rhythm and get them making shots, getting them feeling good, see the ball go through the hoop for tomorrow's game. As you know, they can come out tomorrow, it could be a completely different team. No question, no question. They fell down big early today, but it could be the opposite tomorrow. Adams with a long one, high rebound to Fritz. Adams is bouncy and can really put it on the floor, get to the rim, shoot it. I think Buffalo's got some good players. He's got to get some chemistry going. And like I said, when you don't start 3 of your guys in a tournament like this against a really good team, it's tough to get behind that early. Now you got to just see what you can get out of this and be ready for tomorrow. Jay, thank you so much for stopping by. We can't thank you enough. Jay Wright, longtime Villanova coach, joining us here on FloHoops at the Gulf Coast Showcase. Greg will be back with us in a moment. We bring you back live here on FloHoops. Boy, how special is that? Getting a chance to talk to Hall of Fame coach Jay Wright, of course, the mentor for the past decade and a half for George Halkovich III, the Buffalo head coach. And Greg, I know we both got a chance to talk to Coach Wright a little bit off air as well. And boy, just what a great representation for college basketball. I know you told the story about him earlier, how he was, chatting with high school coaches when he comes to recruit. And in this situation, just out of the goodness of his heart, coming on the air with us for a good 5-6 minutes and breaking down this game a little bit.
Yeah, and he's very genuine. And I know when he announced that he was going to be stepping down, he didn't do a farewell tour. And so many times there's got to be a story behind it. And like, all right, what's the real deal? And what job is he going to – what is he parlaying this into? And no, he's – and I know very little about him, obviously, but you hear things as a high school coach and you go to clinics and whatnot, but genuine is the number one word when you think about a guy like Jay Wright. I think when he won those championships, I think it was 16 and 18, whatever it was, the outpouring of support and gratitude that everybody in college basketball had because of a guy like him.
No question. We're back into another media timeout. First team called timeout of the half. We'll step aside. 9:52 remaining in the last quarterfinal of the day. We are live on FloHoops. John Vitas, Greg Anderson with you. And boy, what a performance from Darlinstone Dubar and the Pride. He's got 30 points in 27 minutes. There's a member of our broadcast team working overtime today, 12-hour day plus for all of our staff, and we can't thank them enough. Here, both at Hertz Arena, their ops staff, our broadcast team here with BD Global and FloHoops, and everybody that makes this tournament go. These are 6 long days, 3 days of the men's tournament and 3 on the women's side as Bolden Jr. hits another one. But he said, Coach Halkovich said that Bolden Jr. was not necessarily on the IMG A team in Bradenton. They have a few different teams. And
they do, yes.
Yeah, the coach that he had, Jim Carr, called up Coach Halkovich and said, this guy is ready for the D1 level, and Bolden has proven that here in the second half.
Yeah, IMG, it's very interesting. You could go to IMG, and you pay the tuition. You're going to be on one of the teams. That doesn't mean you're on the team. So they have a post-grad team, and that's the team that most people hear about. And then they've got, it goes by colors. They've got IMG blue, IMG white, IMG whatever. And, you know, they'll come down to Southwest Florida and play in these little preseason games, tournaments, whatever. And people think, oh, playing IMG. Like, you're playing a IMG, not the IMG.
Right.
But that does not, what I just explained there, Anquan Bolden Jr., outstanding player, and he was probably on their top high school team.
There's a block.
And the training you're getting there and playing against the post-grad guys obviously, you know, paid off. And, you know, a lot of the state of Florida is one of the tops in the country for football. And what I've learned being down here for over 25 years now is, yeah, we've got some great football players, but so many of these football players want to be basketball players. Their first love. You know, a Hall of Famer from Immokalee, right, 30, 45 minutes from here, Edgerrin James. His first love is basketball. And he's got a son that's playing basketball now in college. And who knows what kind of basketball player Anquan Sr. was, but it was, you know, who knows if Junior ever put on the pads.
I would have to think he did at some point if your father is who he is, which was an all Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver. There's a triple for Chapman. To your point, though, about the IMG Academy, they come down here and play in the City of Palms Classic, a great high school tournament down here. A few years ago, they had a player named Zach Eady who sat the bench and played about 12 minutes over the course of 3 games, as we're going to have a video review here. So that's how deep they are, where you've got National Player of the Years, you know, running 11th or 12th on that high school roster. We have a video review coming up here as the teams head over to their huddles. And you are going to see exactly what our official is seeing as he comes over to the monitor. And this is a time and a shot that they asked for. So they're looking at the feet here to see if that's a 2 or a 3. That angle's not going to help too much, I don't think. There you saw the zoom there. It is going to be ruled a 2-pointer for Anquan Bolden Jr. So they'll take a point off the board, it looks like, for Buffalo, and then a foul on the inbounds. And Bolden Jr. is going to be called for the foul.
I couldn't tell if that was 14 or 4.
I believe it was 4, which is Bolden Jr. 14's out on the court, too, though. That's McVeigh. Full court pressure here. Bulls working on stuff. Coach Wright was quick to point out that in these situations, it's a golden opportunity to work on things. Certain sets, certain defenses. He pointed out that Hofstra was in their zone defense, and he figured that's something that Coach Claxton would definitely want to work on in a situation like this. There is another Hofstra 3, that time from Khalil Farmer.
Farmer's first bucket of the game.
Out of Roman Catholic High School in Philadelphia. I'm sure Coach Wright knows that program well, as does George Halkovich. One of the best schools in the Northeast. Just over 8 minutes to go. Another three is up. That one's off the mark. Sunday got his hand on the rebound, but it is out of bounds. That is Griffin Baruch on the attempt. Baruch hit 3 threes against Princeton in a game that Hofstra lost, but it was pretty tight. Princeton beat Rutgers the game before. So that's really almost a Power 5 level team after they went to the Sweet 16 last season.
So at this point, it's safe to say that Hofstra, their older regulars are going to be done for the evening. Rest up for tomorrow's game.
Yes, this is their second unit in right now. That pass goes wide, and it'll be a backcourt violation. You've got Robinson, Farmer, Baruch, Plotnikov, and Sunday out there. Those are players 6 through 10 on the depth chart. We've hit our under 8 media timeout here in Fort Myers. Hofstra leads 88-52. .748 remaining in our final game of day one at the Gulf Coast Showcase. All 8 teams that played today will come right back and play tomorrow. We've got our consolation games in the day session, and then the semifinals at night. And same situation on Wednesday as well, as these teams will have a chance to get home for Thanksgiving. They'll usually fly home early Thursday morning. There's a good opportunity for Sunday to catch the carom and score.
His first bucket of the evening.
Speaking of Sunday, this tournament wraps up on Sunday with the women's bracket, which runs Friday through Sunday, which means the women's teams in this field will spend their Thanksgiving here in Southwest Florida. They'll practice on this court, then go have some turkey over at the resort, and then they'll play Friday through Sunday. And we mentioned it earlier. Caitlin Clark in Iowa, the headliner in that event, number 2 team in the country. You've also got a couple of ranked programs in North Carolina and Kansas State in the field.
Yeah, and if you can't tell, that's how this tournament has been since the jump, basically. We're in year 10. For the men, it's been mid-major types. For the women, it's always been some of the top programs in the country coming down to Southwest Florida, playing in the Gulf Coast Showcase.
Well, we got some word on how this tournament started, and it was really an idea created by coaches. And they said that, a lot of these good mid-majors struggle to find games to put on the schedule because none of the big teams want to face them. And for that matter, neither do the lesser teams because they know they'll probably lose. And so it's hard for these schools to get even competition in the non-conference schedule. So this provides you a guaranteed 3 games against teams of a similar ilk.
Yeah, and I can't name them without looking them up, but I see on my timeline the amount of guaranteed bye games that have backfired on the hosts. There's been at least 6 or 8 just in the last couple weeks where the bye game, you get a
BUY as opposed to BYE.
Exactly. You get a smaller mid-major type. You pay them all the travel expenses. You pay a good amount of their money to come play, and then they knock off the host. And it's quite frankly how a lot of these smaller schools pay for their year. It's a big part of their budget.
Yeah, in all sports. Helps fund the soccer team and the lacrosse team and whatever other sports that school has. It's also usually a nice accommodations on that trip as well. 3 is good. Khalil Farmer again. 6 points in 3 minutes for Farmer. Took a red shirt last year, and he looks ready to play at this level. Smith down the lane. Power dribble, lays it home. Genevia Smith with 2 more, but it's only a matter of time before Hofstra breaks triple digits. That one knocked away by Smith. God, his energy is relentless.
Yeah, the entire game, he's had high energy, playing hard, and that's what you want to see.
Ball trapped in the corner and a push against Buffalo.
And that's a situation where they break down the film. Silas Sunday, you don't want to hand the ball off to your teammate in the corner just into a trap. Let him clear a little bit, keep the ball high instead of giving it up right away.
Farmer gives it back to the freshman Robinson, who's getting some big minutes today. Should finish right around 20 minutes played. Sunday backs his man down, and another foul. That'll be against Williamson again for getting in that cylinder against Sunday.
And if you're looking for any of the Hofstra players to go to the bench next, it most likely would be Robinson, who's played 15 minutes. And I don't know how deep Coach Claxton wants to go in this game, but a perfect opportunity to try to get some guys some playing time.
That'll be Buffalo ball. Ball was lost on the sideline there, right in front of the Pride bench. Both these teams came in at 1 and 2, so Hofstra will get back to 500. But as you said earlier, Greg, this would be their first win against a Division I opponent. A key building block to get to where they want to be. Again, a team that won 25 games last year. Heck of a move again by Smith, but the rebound pulled in by Sunday, and then a reach-in foul on Bolden Jr. You've got to love his aggressiveness, though, right? That's his 4th foul, but he has been everywhere in a pretty lopsided game.
Yeah, he's played 22 minutes, 10 points.
And was quiet in the first half. Almost all of his damage has come here in the second. And while it is lopsided and a little bit looser than it was in the first half, the fact that his motor is still running at full speed, I think, says a lot for both he and Smith.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. All 10 of his points did come here in the second half.
Pass ahead brought in by Baruch. Had to reach behind him. Robinson pulls up in the lane and hits. 8 points now for Keyjon Robinson. Won a couple of state titles in high school in Florida. Smith, a long 3, and he buries it. Genevia Smith with a heck of a second half. He's into double digits now, 11 points and 7 rebounds. Robinson shovels to Baruch. And a foul underneath as Smith and Sunday were going at it. Officials talking to both of them. And it's going to go on Sunday, an offensive foul. And is it technical because they're walking down for free throws? It will be a technical foul on Silas Sunday.
Okay.
Flagrant 1 is the word on Silas Sunday. Threw his elbow at Smith, and Smith will shoot the free throws. And that one rims off. That was the one beef that Speedy Claxton had with his team at halftime, allowing too many free throws. Buffalo did shoot 16 free throws in the first half, as Smith misses both.
So you got to laugh every once in a while. As Smith was coming to the line, I think one of his family members from the crowd yelled out, "Can they pick a different shooter?" Smith looked up and smiled a little bit. Unfortunately, he missed both. It would have been nice if he would have made at least one of those so he could look up in the crowd and let them know.
Yeah, most of the crowd here for this game is behind us, so you won't see them on the screen. But there has been a spattering of maybe 300 to 500 fans for each of our games today. Nice group of Hofstra fans here. Similar amount of people as we saw for Iona this morning, the two New York City area teams. Of course, Hofstra located on Long Island, but not far at all from New York City. And same thing goes for Iona. They're in Westchester, but just a few minutes from the border of New York City. Do you know your boroughs, Greg?
I don't.
Okay.
Not very well at all.
I could sense that.
I've been to Manhattan. I've been in the area. But no, I don't know the bureaus. What I know is the Iona SID had mentioned that there's a possibility that Hofstra and Iona were going to play last week. They both had an opening in their schedule. Iona had a 10-day break before this afternoon's game, and they decided it was a possibility they could match up down here, and they decided not to play after all, which I totally understand.
Farmer pulls up, and he's short. Smith with the board. Well, I can tell you that Hofstra is closest to the borough of Queens. I can also tell you that Iona is closest to the Bronx.
I've heard of them.
Have you heard of Brooklyn?
I have.
That one goes through for Chapman off the window, and then the one that everyone always forgets is Staten Island.
The Forgotten Fifth. Did I just make up that name?
It's actually perfect. There is a Division I college basketball program on Staten Island. That would be Wagner.
Oh, I'm familiar with Wagner.
Yeah. Lots of good basketball, though, with those mid-majors in New York City. As you might expect, tons of talent. Baruch, a long three off the front of the rim. The Hofstra fans tuned in are just screaming at their television sets right now. There is a whistle on our final timeout of the night. The only thing left to determine is whether the Pride will hit triple digits. We'll be right back on FloHoops. Back live from Hertz Arena here on FloHoops. John Vitas and Greg Anderson bringing you the A final matchup of the day as we get ready for tomorrow's slate. 4 more games here on FloHoops. Max Tanzer will be in the booth for the first 2 tomorrow. Greg and I will have the night session, the semifinals. And one thing, I know you won't be here for the consolation games, Greg, but as you've seen all 8 teams today, of the 4 losing teams in today's action, if you had to pick one to break out tomorrow and get a pretty decisive win, who would it be?
Man, I'm going to have to figure out who's played today.
Louisiana
They're all sort of
lost.
blending in. Louisiana is probably my answer. Iona's still trying to figure it out with 13 new players. Louisiana, the only thing I'm worried about Louisiana is their health right now. With their point guard going down, they were limping out of this building a little bit.
Yeah, Julian rolled an ankle, their leading scorer tonight. But I think they would probably be my pick as well. Iona lost the first game. Long Beach State lost the second game. Now, if Long Beach State breaks out tomorrow, they could win by a good margin. Coming in on paper, they were the best team in the field, and they just did not play well today at all.
No chemistry whatsoever with all that returning talent and success they've had over the last couple of years.
Yet when 2 of your 3 best players don't score until midway through the second half, that is not a good sign. The Traore unofficial brothers were held scoreless until about midway through the second half. Now, one of them finished with 15 rebounds, but that is an uber-talented team that just laid an egg in the first round, and I have a feeling they may still come out of this week with 2 wins. So Max will have the call on the early games the next couple of days. Our first matchup at 11 will be Iona versus Long Beach State. Our matchup at 1:30, as long as this score holds, would be Buffalo against Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana is a pretty talented team, and it would be interesting to see how Buffalo bounces back.
Well, to me, it's interesting how all 4 teams bounce back. We talked about it with Coach Rice. The variance from day 1 to day 2 can be pretty great. So we'll see which teams come out playing much better tomorrow and which ones don't. You don't want to play the 11 a.m. game on Wednesday because that means you're 0-2. As there's a reach-in foul there, and Farmer will go to the free throw line on the other side. That's the 7th foul for Buffalo, so it puts Hofstra in the 1-1. And then our semifinals, Greg and I will have the call at 5 o'clock and 7:30 tomorrow. The first semifinal will be from our day session today. High Point against Illinois State. 2 teams, I think if we were assessing performance compared to expectations, I think those 2 teams exceeded our expectations the most.
Yeah, however, again, it's so early in the season. We have such a small sample size, and High Point just came out, and they shot the ball very well, and they've got size, and they've got guards. Illinois State just came out and played aggressive, and they've got a very talented roster as well.
I get the feeling, as there was another 3 there from Hofstra. Robinson with another one. He's got double figures as he dribbles around the back. A career day so far for Keyshawn Robinson in his 4th Division I game. I catch your drift, Greg, that you like Illinois State. If they continue to play with the energy they did today, you like their chances to win at least 2 here this week.
Sure. Whether or not that's going to be tomorrow, that's another story.
Step back for Robinson, and he airballed it. Yeah, High Point was really impressive this morning. More physical talent than I think we realized as more subs come to file in here for Buffalo. Our second semi between Hofstra and our winner in the previous game. Our minds are mush at this point.
Yeah, you're trying to remember that game too, right?
Wright State.
Oh, Wright State, yes.
Coach Nagy, we talked about with Jay Wright a moment ago. Wright State versus Hofstra. Those are 2 maybe the most skilled teams, you can say. Those teams can shoot it. Offensively, they both look dynamic tonight.
2 similar styles, I think. I think tomorrow could be a high-scoring game between these two teams. You know, in the post-game interview, the Wright State player, Noel,
Brandon
talked
Noel.
about, we had to get back playing defense. We've been giving up 90 points a game, and then he looked at the scoreboard and said, well, we still gave up 85, and that's not good enough either. But they're going to have a hard time.
There's a nice finish by Bolden.
Shutting down this Hofstra offense.
Yeah.
But they've got just as much firepower as well.
See, where Louisiana went wrong today, and it's not their, not their fault tonight, but they didn't have the size to match up with Wright State, and the bigs for Wright State wreaked havoc. Hofstra's got these 2 transfers, Fritz and Sunday, and I think they'll be able to counter the interior presence of Wright State a little bit better. So it might be on Calvin to go for 30-plus tomorrow and match guys.
And remember, Holden didn't do much for Wright State, surprisingly.
Yeah, nothing offensively. He's a presence defensively. But a quiet day for Tanner Holden, the Ohio State transfer. So that's a fun one we're looking forward to tomorrow. All these teams will rest up back at the resort and come on back for an 11 a.m. tip tomorrow. Not all the teams will be here, but they'll all be here at some point tomorrow. With the first game tipping off at 11. Baruch with a nice move inside. The redshirt sophomore converts, and Hofstra has hit triple digits. Sable, the bounce pass. Williamson lost it. Goes to the floor, and it's knocked away by Baruch. Shot clock still on, so they can run their offense here and try and go above 100. 30 seconds remaining.
I always find these possessions interesting. You've got a bunch of bench guys, and oftentimes you'll see in a blowout game, bench guys go in for like one possession, then they're told by the coach, hey, hold the ball, no shots.
Right.
It's like, well, come on. You finally get an opportunity to play, and and I can't do anything with it.
Yeah, the offensive day is going to end with free throws here for Hofstra, barring an offensive rebound. We should have mentioned Christian Tomasco has been in the last few minutes for Hofstra. But like Coach Wright said, George Halkovich III keeping his better players in the game throughout this second half. He wants to see how they bounce back and how they play together here. These minutes are valuable for them.
Yeah, he's still trying to figure things out. Brand new coach, a lot of new players. And despite the score, despite anything, this is time on the floor that you've got to value.
So Hofstra is going to move on here. A very impressive win to start their Gulf Coast showcase. As you see the final score, 102-68. Max will have the Hofstra contingent in just a moment here on FloHoops. But Greg, maybe the most complete performance we've seen today. The Hofstra pride came to play.
Yeah, and I think Buffalo was a little outmatched, to say the least, and they would have had to get a start opposite of what happened in this game. And they got down early, and then moreover, that run during the first half, like 22-2 run, something like that, just didn't help.
Looks like Tyler Thomas is coming over to chat with Max. We are excited to hear from him. He's been resting for quite a while. Thomas finished with 21 points, not as many as Darlin Stone-Dubar, who had 30, but those two guys both shot well over 50%. Let's send it over to Max, who is with Tyler Thomas.
Thank you very much, John. We're joined by Tyler Thomas. And Tyler, quite a performance from you guys as a whole, to say the least. Both of your wins this season, 100-plus points. When you got off the plane here in Florida, did you expect to put this performance together as a team?
I think we just wanted to come out and make ourselves feel good after those two bad losses to two really good teams, you know. Today our offense was cooking, but I think we played really good defense. We still got to touch on some things, but, you know, we got another one tomorrow, so we got to put this one behind us.
Absolutely. And then 20 points in 3 of the 4 games you've played this year. What's been working for you to start the season?
Just trusting what I do every day in practice and the extra workouts and stuff. My coaches believe in me, my teammates believe in me, so I just got to believe in myself, and the shots been falling.
And then got Wright State tomorrow. You know, what's the feel? What's the game plan going into day 2 in a row?
I haven't thought about Wright State. We had to focus on Buffalo, but I'm sure the coaching staff's going to have a great game plan for us after we get out the locker room.
Once again, Tyler Thomas, 21 points tonight. 3rd time he's hit 20 this season. Tyler, thank you so much.
Thank you.
John, back to you.
Thank you, Max. Good stuff from Tyler. They will dig into the game plan on Wright State for that 7:30 game tomorrow. But, Greg, long day of basketball. It's been a pleasure.
John, we'll see you tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, Greg and I have the night session, 5 o'clock and 7:30, the semifinals here at the Gulf Coast Showcase. We'll be back on the air, though, at 11 a.m. for our first consolation game. Look forward to you rejoining us then. For everybody here in Estero, I am John Vitas saying good night from Hertz Arena. Day one of the Gulf Coast Showcase is complete.